The morning sun barely crested the horizon, casting long shadows across the military base. The air was cool, crisp, and carried the faint scent of sweat oil and the dust of early morning training. The female soldier stepped into formation, her boots clicking lightly against the concrete, her posture straight and disciplined. Her eyes scanned the other soldiers, noting the mixture of familiar faces and new recruits. Their expressions varied from focused determination to casual indifference. She adjusted her jacket lightly over her shoulders, hiding the faint curve of her scar beneath the fabric. The commanding officer approached a tall, imposing figure, the colonel whose presence alone demanded attention. His eyes swept over the formation, landing on her briefly, a small smirk appearing on his lips. He stopped his stride, his gaze lingering the slightest fraction longer, and he called her name loudly enough for everyone to hear. She stepped forward, her movements measured and precise. The colonel's voice rang out, mocking and incredulous, asking if she really expected to be excused from PT today. He gestured broadly towards the running track, the obstacle course, and the rows of soldiers performing strenuous exercises. His tone was sharp-biting, carrying an edge of challenge. She stood silently listening, the murmur of whispers spreading through the formation. The soldiers exchanged glances, some smiling nervously, others shaking their heads, questioning what she would do. The colonel laughed loudly, a deep, commanding sound echoing across the courtyard, questioning her commitment, toughness, and ability. His words hung in the air, heavy and sharp as the morning sunlight. The female soldier remained still, her eyes steady, unwavering, her jaw set. Her fingers twitched lightly on the edge of her jacket, but she did not speak, allowing the tension to build further. Behind her, fellow soldiers shifted uneasily, unsure whether to intervene or remain silent. The colonel continued, his taunts escalating his mockery, drawing attention from every corner of the formation, pointing to her small frame, implying that she lacked the strength for the rigorous PT that awaited all of them. He smirked, questioning whether she could carry a full pack, complete the obstacle course, or even survive the morning drills. Her peers tried to hide their discomfort, some avoiding eye contact, others pretending to focus on the exercises, but all were aware of the silent standoff unfolding. They inhaled slowly, letting the words and ridicule wash over her as her mind focused entirely on the moment. She knew that any reaction must be measured, precise, controlled, or it could give the colonel the satisfaction of victory. She adjusted her stance, slightly feet planted firmly on the ground, her back straightening, her hands clasping briefly in front of her. The colonel leaned forward slightly, his eyes narrowing, a challenge in his gaze. He asked again, louder this time, if she truly thought she could be excused. His voice a low, threatening rumble that carried across the formation. The soldiers watching held their breath, waiting for her response, unsure if she would retreat, shrink, or snap back. Her eyes met his, fully unwavering her expression, calm and controlled, signaling that she had something to reveal, something that would silence doubt and command attention. She slowly reached for the zipper of her jacket, a deliberate motion that drew every eye in the formation. She paused briefly, letting the anticipation hang thick in the air. The colonel's smirk faltered slightly, noticing the small, deliberate movement. He stepped back, just a fraction curiosity flickering across his face. The soldiers whispered among themselves, their breaths shallow as they leaned forward, anticipating her next move. She drew a deep breath, her fingers gripping the edge of the jacket, and began to pull it open slowly, methodically revealing the first glimpse of skin and the faint outline of a scar. Her eyes never left the colonel's, her posture unwavering, her movements deliberate and controlled. The whispers grew louder as soldiers began to notice the shape and depth of what lay beneath the fabric. The colonel's expression changed imperceptibly, at first a flicker of doubt passing through his eyes. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. The female soldier paused for a moment, letting the silence stretch, the tension thickening with every second. The soldiers held their breath, unsure of what they would see next, knowing that the moment about to unfold could change everything. The scar beneath her jacket was jagged, deep, and long, a silent testimony of courage endured, pain survived, and battles fought. She let the light fall across it, slowly letting every detail become visible to those watching. The colonel's eyes widened slightly, the smirk gone, replaced by a mix of shock, disbelief, and dawning respect. The formation remained silent. The only sound, the soft mourning breeze and the distant clang of equipment waiting for what she would do next. Her hand lingered briefly on the jacket, her eyes steady on the colonel, leaving everyone at the edge of anticipation, knowing that the revelation had just begun and that the story behind the scar was about to command their full attention. The female soldier held her jacket open, letting the morning sun illuminate the jagged scar that ran across her shoulder and down her back. The formation remained silent, every eye fixed on the mark, a silent testament to battles fought and sacrifices made. The colonel shifted slightly, his expression a mixture of disbelief, shock, and something else that flickered briefly across his eyes. Respect. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words seemed to falter before they could escape his lips. The other soldiers whispered softly among themselves, unsure of how to react to the sudden revelation. Some shook their heads incredulously, while others stared wide-eyed in awe. The female soldier took a slow step forward, her posture unwavering, her eyes never leaving the colonel. She began to speak, her voice calm, steady, and commanding, carrying across the courtyard, every word deliberate. Each sentence painted a picture of chaos, danger, and courage, of moments where every decision had life and death consequences. Her words were precise, yet filled with emotion, recounting the mission where the scar had been earned. The battle had been brutal, the enemy fierce and unrelenting. She had been part of a small team tasked with a critical objective, navigating enemy fire with every step, risking life and limb. The scar she bore was not a mark of weakness, but of survival, endurance, and courage. She described the moment a blast had thrown her against a wall. The heat, the pain, the sharp metallic sting as shrapnel tore through her uniform and flesh. The soldiers listened in stunned silence, imagining the intensity of the moment, the fear, the adrenaline, and the raw determination that had allowed her to survive. She continued recounting how she had managed to carry a wounded comrade to safety despite her own injuries, the training, discipline, and mental fortitude that had pushed her beyond the limits of what others thought possible. Her hands gestured subtly over the scar, emphasizing the path of the wound and the precision required to navigate the chaos. The colonel's face had changed completely, the smirk replaced by a tight jaw and narrowed eyes, his previous mockery replaced by a dawning understanding. He leaned slightly forward, curiosity mingling with respect as he processed every word, every detail of the story. The soldiers around them were silent, captivated by the narrative, each detail a revelation of courage and resilience. The female soldier paused briefly, letting the weight of her words settle the tension thick in the air. She allowed the eyes of her peers and officers to absorb the full impact of what they had just witnessed. The colonel opened his mouth again, attempting to speak, yet the words stumbled. His pride conflicted with the undeniable proof of her bravery. Her voice resumed, telling of the moments after the blast, the decision-making, the calculated risks taken to save others, her body aching, her mind focused, and her resolve unbroken. She described the fear, the chaos, and the sense of responsibility that had propelled her forward when every instinct screamed to retreat or succumb. The soldiers listening felt the intensity, the vividness of the experience as if they themselves had been thrust into the mission. Her recounting was unflinching, honest and raw, leaving no detail hidden, no fear unspoken. The colonel's fists clenched slightly at his sides as he listened, the silent acknowledgement of her courage forming, despite his own initial skepticism. The formation remained frozen, the only sounds, the soft whisper of the breeze, the distant clang of equipment, and the occasional shuffle of boots. The female soldier finally allowed a small pause, her eyes scanning the faces before her. The soldiers' peers and commanding officers all affected by the story. The scar, the sacrifice, and the unspoken lessons of courage and perseverance. She let the pause linger, knowing the anticipation had reached its peak. Her scar was no longer just a mark on her body, but a symbol of the experiences that had defined her strength, skill, and determination. The colonel's gaze was fixed firmly on her, the tension in his shoulders, betraying the internal conflict of pride, embarrassment, and awe. He had mocked her minutes ago, questioning her toughness, and now he was faced with undeniable evidence of her valor. She inhaled slowly, the breeze lifting her hair slightly as she allowed the silence to deepen around them, every soldier aware of the power of the moment. The scar glistened faintly in the sun, a testament to her survival, her resilience, and her courage. The whispers among the formation were soft, incredulous questioning. And admiring all at once, the female soldier closed her jacket slowly, methodically, leaving the scar barely visible, yet the story behind it etched deeply into the minds of all who had witnessed. The colonel stepped back slightly, the weight of realization heavy in his chest, his previous demeanor gone, replaced by a quiet reverence. The soldiers around them exchanged glances, nodding subtly their respect, undeniable. The female soldier straightened, her posture, her eyes sweeping the formation, signaling without words that strength is measured not in size or excuses, but in courage, sacrifice, and the willingness to face fear, head on. The tension remained thick, her story and the scar, a silent echo in every mind, leaving everyone waiting to see what would happen next, and how the colonel would respond to being faced with undeniable proof of bravery and resilience. The female soldier stood silently for a moment, letting the weight of the revelation settle over the formation. Her eyes scanned the faces before her, seeing disbelief, shock, and awe mingled together. Her voice resumed, calm, controlled, and deliberate, as she continued the story of the mission, the moment when every second counted, every decision could mean life or death. She described the chaos, the deafening roar of explosions, the stinging smoke, the sharp crack of gunfire echoing through the narrow streets, and the panic that threatened to overwhelm her team. Her comrades had been scattered, injured, and trapped in positions that seemed impossible to escape. She moved through the scene with purpose, every motion calculated, yet fluid, assessing threats, rescuing the wounded, and coordinating movement under fire. The scar she bore had been earned at the moment a grenade had exploded just feet away, throwing her against the wall, sending shards of metal tearing through uniform and skin. The pain had been blinding, the shock numbing, yet her mind had been razor sharp, focusing on the only thing that mattered: survival and the safety of her comrades. She recalled reaching the most severely wounded soldier, a massive man pinned under debris and smoke. She knew lifting him would require every ounce of strength, endurance, and technique she had ever learned. The soldiers listening shifted uncomfortably, imagining the impossible weight, the chaos, and the raw fear. She continued narrating how she had leveraged every muscle, every training skill to lift the man, her body burning, pain coursing through her, yet her focus unwavering. The team watched helplessly, thinking the task beyond her capability, yet she moved with precision and control, every step a negotiation with gravity, pain, and fear. The colonel's Jaw had tightened, his eyes narrowing as he tried to comprehend what he was hearing. The whispers among the formation had ceased, replaced by silence, as everyone processed the courage and determination being described. She told of the narrow corridors they had to traverse, balancing the wounded man against her own injuries, the imminent threat of enemy fire around them, the debris and unstable footing that could topple them both at any moment. Her voice did not waver each word, painting the vivid intensity of the situation, the adrenaline, the fear and the resolve required to act under extreme pressure. She spoke of the moments when her team faltered in doubt and panic, and how she had taken command, guiding them calmly yet decisively through the danger. She described how every action had to be calculated, her mind racing with possibilities while her body executed movements with flawless precision. Her muscles flexed, every joint engaged, every fiber screaming, yet she pressed on with unwavering determination. The soldiers listening could feel the tension, the pressure, the immediacy of the danger, as if they themselves were in the alleyways dodging gunfire and debris. She continued detailing how she had finally placed the wounded man in a safe position, allowing medics to attend to him, and then returned to help others, all while ignoring her own injuries and exhaustion. The scar across her shoulder and back was a testament not only to the physical pain she endured, but to the mental fortitude required to act decisively under life-threatening circumstances. The colonel's fists clenched at his sides, a mixture of pride, shame, and awe flickering across his features. He had mocked her moments ago, and now he was forced to reckon with undeniable proof of courage, strength, and skill. The soldiers around him whispered softly, marveling at her bravery, the discipline, the courage, and the unwavering calm she had maintained under chaos. The female soldier paused briefly, letting the magnitude of her story sink in. Every soldier in formation understood that what they had witnessed was extraordinary. She allowed her gaze to sweep across the faces of her peers, lingering on the colonel's expression, a silent challenge that he could not ignore. The story behind the scar had revealed not only the physical consequences of battle, but the mental resilience required to overcome fear, danger, and pain. Her voice resumed, describing the split-second decision that had saved multiple lives, the moment when hesitation could have led to disaster. Yet she had acted instinctively, decisively, and with absolute focus. She described the risk, the calculations, and the precise execution that allowed her to navigate the chaos, carrying the wounded and protecting her team. Her words left a palpable tension in the air as everyone processed the courage required to act under such extreme conditions. The colonel shifted slightly. His pride challenged his previous assumptions, shattered. As he recognized the depth of skill, strength, and character before him, the formation remained silent. The only sounds, the distant clang of equipment, the rustle of uniforms, and the faint whisper of wind across the courtyard. The female soldier closed, her jacket slowly allowing the scar to be concealed once more. Yet the story remained vivid in every mind. The soldiers looked at her differently now, their admiration clear, the whispers of doubt long gone. The colonel stood rigid, his eyes fixed on her as he processed the undeniable reality of her courage and capability. Her story had transformed perceptions, shifted authority, and demonstrated that true strength was not measured in size or appearance, but in courage, skill, and unwavering resolve. The tension remained thick, every soldier aware that the lesson extended beyond the battlefield, beyond physical ability to the essence of character, determination, and bravery. The female soldier straightened her posture, her eyes sweeping, the formation silently signaling that she had proven herself in a way that words alone could never convey. Every soldier felt the impact, every peer, every commanding officer understanding that the scar and the story behind it had changed the dynamic, forever leaving suspense, lingering over what challenge or recognition would come next. The female soldier stood straight, her posture unwavering, her eyes sweeping the formation as silence hung heavily over the courtyard. Every soldier was frozen, their attention fixed entirely on her and the story she had revealed. Her jacket hung loosely over her shoulders, concealing the scar, but the weight of what they had just witnessed lingered in the air. The colonel shifted his stance slightly, his eyes narrowed and jaw tight, his mind racing to reconcile the image of the woman before him with the courage and skill she had demonstrated moments ago. The soldiers around him whispered quietly to one another in hushed tones, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others nodding subtly in acknowledgement of the courage they had just seen. Her gaze remained fixed on the colonel, a silent challenge daring him to speak or acknowledge the undeniable truth. She adjusted her jacket slightly, her hands moving deliberately, a small gesture that drew the attention of the entire formation. The colonel cleared his throat, his pride warring with respect and admiration, the sound loud in the silence of the courtyard. He opened his mouth, but no words emerged immediately, the air thick with tension and anticipation. The female soldier let the pause stretch, allowing the weight of the moment to settle further on everyone present. Her peers watched intently, noting every micro-expression on the colonel's face, the slight twitch of his fingers, the tightening of his jaw, and the shifting of his stance. The soldiers around her exchanged glances, some leaning slightly forward as if trying to glimpse what would happen next, others standing rigid there, expressions unreadable, yet every eye drawn to the interaction between the officer and the woman who had defied expectations. Her voice finally broke the silence, calm, controlled, and unwavering as she spoke softly, reminding the formation that courage is often invisible, and strength is not measured in size or appearance, but in action, resolve, and resilience. The words settled over the soldiers like a wave, the gravity of her message resonating deeply. Her story had shifted something fundamental. In the atmosphere, the whispers of doubt replaced by murmurs of respect and awe. The colonel's hands clenched at his sides, a barely perceptible tremor betraying his internal struggle. Moments ago, he had mocked her, questioning her toughness. Now he was confronted with undeniable proof of her capability and bravery. He glanced briefly at the other soldiers, noting their expressions of admiration and disbelief, and realized the dynamic had changed irreversibly. The female soldier stepped slightly forward, her boots crunching lightly against the concrete, each step deliberate and measured. Her eyes did not waver. She spoke now to the entire formation, reminding them that every soldier carries invisible battles and that courage is often proven in moments when fear and pain are most intense. The soldiers listened intently, the tension thick in the air, the courtyard quiet except for the distant clang of equipment and faint wind sweeping across the base. Her words painted vivid images of the mission, the danger, the chaos, and the split-second decisions that had defined her actions. The colonel's gaze softened ever so slightly, a reluctant acknowledgement forming. In his eyes, he had been forced to confront not only her bravery, but his own misjudgment. The female soldier allowed a small pause, her eyes sweeping the formation again, letting her message sink in. The soldiers whispered softly, exchanging glances, their respect evident in their expressions and posture. Some straightened slightly, their movements subtle yet symbolic of recognition. The colonel finally spoke, his voice low but firm, carrying authority and gravity. His words measured as he acknowledged the courage, skill, and determination of the woman before him. The formation remained silent, absorbing the moment, processing the shift in respect and authority. Her peers nodded subtly, a few, offering quiet murmurs of agreement and admiration. The female soldier adjusted her stance slightly, her back straight, her shoulders firm, signaling readiness for whatever challenge might come next. The colonel's expression remained complex, a mixture of pride, embarrassment, and respect simmering beneath. The surface. He took a slow breath, allowing the weight of the situation to settle fully. The lesson undeniable, the display of courage and resilience unforgettable. The soldiers around them began to murmur softly, their voices filled with awe, admiration, and quiet approval. The female soldier remained still, letting the moment resonate through the formation, knowing that her actions, her story, and the scar she bore had changed perceptions forever. She allowed her gaze to sweep the courtyard one final time, taking in the expressions of her peers, the colonel and the recruits, all of whom were silently acknowledging her strength, skill, and courage. Every micro-expression, every whisper, every nod reinforced the lesson that strength and bravery are proven through action, not appearance. The air seemed to hum with tension, anticipation, and respect. The soldiers fully aware that this moment would be remembered long after the morning PT was over. The female soldier finally allowed a faint smile to touch her lips, a subtle acknowledgement of the impact of her revelation and her story. She straightened fully, her presence commanding respect without a word. Her eyes flicked briefly toward the horizon, a silent reminder that even as this chapter of recognition closed, new challenges would inevitably arrive, and that courage and resilience must always remain ready. The colonel shifted again, adjusting his stance, his eyes lingering on her one final time, a reluctant yet undeniable respect evident. In his gaze, the formation remained still, the atmosphere thick with suspense and reverence as the female soldier prepared herself silently for whatever came next, her actions, words, and presence leaving every soldier aware that true strength and courage are often hidden until revealed under the most intense pressure, leaving anticipation hanging over what challenge or recognition would come next. The female soldier adjusted her jacket slowly, letting it hang loosely over her shoulders, concealing the scar once more. Yet the impact of its revelation remained heavy in the air. Every soldier in formation shifted slightly, their eyes still fixed on her, the tension of the moment palpable, and the lesson of courage, strength, and resilience settling deeply in their minds. The colonel remained rigid, his expression a mixture of pride, humility, and reflection, his mind racing to reconcile his earlier mockery with the undeniable proof of bravery and skill standing before him. The whispers among the soldiers were soft now, filled with admiration and disbelief, some nodding subtly, others exchanging glances of quiet acknowledgement. The female soldier drew a deep, steadying breath, her boots planted firmly against the concrete, her posture commanding and unwavering, every fiber of her body radiating focus, control, and authority. She scanned the formation briefly, taking in the faces of her peers, the recruits and seasoned soldiers, each one processing the lesson that true strength is often invisible, and that courage is proven in action and resolve, not in appearance or size. The colonel cleared his throat, a low sound, carrying authority across the courtyard, signaling his attention and respect without unnecessary words. He admitted in measured tones the error of his judgment, acknowledging her courage and determination. His voice calm yet firm, signaling that recognition of bravery requires observation and respect rather than ridicule. The soldiers shifted slightly, their attention caught fully by the exchange, the tension in the air thick with anticipation and unspoken understanding. The female soldier nodded subtly, acknowledging the colonel's words, yet her eyes remained fixed on the formation, a silent reminder that actions speak louder than verbal acknowledgement. She took a few deliberate steps forward, the crunch of her boots on concrete, breaking the silence softly yet decisively. Her peers straightened slightly, their expressions reflecting admiration and respect, their whispers, carrying the lesson that courage, skill, and determination are revealed through deeds, not assumptions. The colonel took a step back, allowing the formation to absorb the weight of the moment, his eyes lingering on her as he processed fully the shift in perception, the undeniable courage demonstrated moments ago. The female soldier spoke again. Her voice, calm, controlled, and unwavering, reminding the soldiers that every person carries invisible battles and scars that shape strength, resolve, and character. Her words were deliberate, each sentence a lesson and a warning that appearances can be deceiving, and that respect must be earned through action, perseverance, and bravery. The formation remained silent, the courtyard heavy with tension, the distant clang of equipment, and the soft rustle of uniforms, the only sounds breaking the stillness. She allowed her eyes to sweep across the soldiers, resting briefly on those who had doubted her, letting them feel the full weight of her presence. Her posture unwavering, she moved with deliberate calm, signaling readiness for the continuation of training, every gesture precise, leaving no doubt of her capability. The colonel observed silently, his fists unclenching slightly, a subtle release of tension as he internalized the lesson and acknowledged the courage standing before him. The soldiers began to stir, moving with renewed energy and respect, inspired by the example she had set. Her story, her scar, and her actions had shifted perceptions and instilled understanding that true strength is proven under challenge. The female soldier signaled subtly for the formation to resume activity, her presence commanding without overt instruction. The soldiers followed her lead their movements, informed by the courage they had just witnessed. The colonel offered a quiet nod, a subtle gesture of respect and acknowledgement, his pride tempered by humility and understanding. The female soldier straightened, fully scanning the formation. One final time, the silence lingering as a testament to the impact of her story and demonstration of strength. Every soldier absorbed the lesson, the weight of her actions, the scar she bore, and the courage she had revealed settling in their minds. Her gaze flicked briefly toward the horizon, a silent acknowledgement that even as recognition had been earned, new challenges would inevitably arrive, and courage, resilience, and readiness must always be maintained. She allowed a faint smile to touch her lips, acknowledging the completion of one chapter and the anticipation of future tests. The soldiers around her whispered softly, their expressions reflecting admiration, awe, and understanding. The courtyard remained charged with quiet tension, anticipation, and respect as every soldier present realized the depth of what had been demonstrated. The female soldier adjusted her jacket fully now, her posture commanding yet relaxed, signaling the completion of her display of courage and resilience. Her eyes swept the horizon, a silent reminder that the world remained unpredictable, that challenges would come, and that readiness, determination, and courage would always be required. Every soldier in formation carried the lesson, her actions and story leaving a lasting impression long after the morning PT ended. The colonel's eyes lingered on her. One final time, a subtle nod passing between them, a quiet resolution of respect and understanding, the lesson internalized and the story complete, yet the anticipation of what lay ahead lingering in every mind, the courtyard heavy with unspoken tension and admiration for the soldier who had proven courage, strength, and resilience beyond any doubt.